We're looking at cranial meninges. My name is Brad. I've been teaching anatomy for almost 24 years now. Try to simplify this best I can. This is the nervous system. I also have a study guide that might help you as well as we describe some of these structures, but we just want to break down the protective layers of the brain that's also continuous with the spinal cord. We have three primary layers: the dura mater, that actually has two layers to it, the arachnoid mater, and then the pia mater. So we're describing these three meninges. They are continuous with the spinal cord because the brain and spinal cord is really all one big connection together that's wrapped in these protective folds. The meninges are kind of like the seatbelts of the brain and spinal cord, that it's that outer protective layer as you're inside the cranium. So the seatbelt is the meninges. The skull itself is the car that you're driving in. So the car is protecting you, but I could still get hit. So I use the meninges as that additional layer. But then we could also use these for the movement of fluids like cerebrospinal fluid and some of our blood flow. So as we look at meninges, three layers, dura mater is referring to tough mother. It's the outer section of it. So I have the cranium, and in between this venous blood flow, I have two layers of dura mater. If you notice here, this is meningeal dura mater, which is the inner portion. The outside portion of it, just below the cranium, is the endosteal dura mater. So I have endosteal membrane, and then I have a meningeal. In between those is where I have some blood flow. So it helps to create blood flow for this. So you're looking over here at the brain structures. We're looking at that blood flow. Here's the cranium. Then I have my endosteal dura mater. And then on the other side, I have my meningeal dura mater. So our tough matter, the outer protective layer. The other thing we don't have in this picture is the dura mater actually has additional folds that go in between areas of like the longitudinal fissure of the brain where the cerebellum is, and different protective folds from there to help encase a lot of our important structures of the brain. So we have dura mater, and then I go deep to that and I have arachnoid mater. Arachnoid mater is that next layer underneath, and then I go deep to that, and that's what we call the subarachnoid space. So I have that meninge, arachnoid, but deep to it is a space. That's where we have CSF flow going through. So all these arrows are indicating where we have cerebrospinal fluid flowing through that subarachnoid space. So even if I look at some of the cavities here of the brain, these ventricular areas, ventricles or space-filled areas, is where the CSF is flowing. How I put it back into the bloodstream, because remember, cerebrospinal fluid is very similar to the plasma or water of the blood. So when we dispose of it, we put it through what structures called arachnoid granulations or arachnoid villi. These are extensions of the arachnoid layer that then dump into and penetrate the dura mater into this venous blood flow. And this is into what we call a superior sagittal sinus. So this gets us back to ultimately through our venous blood flow to the heart, and we exchange it and just keep regenerating CSF, putting it into the cardiovascular system. Lastly, directly on top of the structure itself, the brain or cerebrum, I have pia mater. Pia mater, pia meaning delicate, but it's not only adhesing to the brain itself and all the gyri and sulci, it's providing a lot of blood flow as well. So it's highly vascular to give us that blood flow. Because remember, we said the brain generates some of the most metabolic waste throughout the body. And how do we get rid of that? A lot by blood flow. So three meninges that are continuous with the spinal cord, but more specialized when we look at the brain. The dura mater is our two layers. The outside layer just underneath the cranium, this is called endosteal, referring to like endosteum. And then the inner portion, which is the meningeal. Then I hit arachnoid, which has these extensions called arachnoid granulations, directly on the organ itself, kind of like the visceral membranes. This is pia mater. This is our cranial meninges.